Neely Rajput is the founder of the Whiskful Baker, a luxury cake and dessert brand built on the principles of community, connection, and genuine relationships. Neely draws inspiration from her decade-long career as an educator into her entrepreneurial journey, creating a highly recognizable brand rooted in trust, authenticity, and meaningful experiences. Neely, welcome to ThinkSpace.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So, okay, just before we got started and got cut off by Kevin to start, you said, I was like, yo, this is a clip.
Yeah.
Nothing thickened my skin deeper than TikTok. Can you double down on that?
Yes. So I started posting on TikTok in December, I think it was of 2022. And one of the things that I immediately realized as my page started growing really quickly, it gained a lot of traction fast. But with that came a lot of hate comments. And before I started TikTok, I was a really sensitive person. And somebody could say something to me and I would be in tears. I'd be really upset. But at the rate I was getting hate comments on TikTok, it thickened my skin so quickly. And it just made me realize that a lot of people are dealing with things that you have no idea about. And they're coming from a personal experience and they're letting it out on you, right? And you just kind of learn to read it and move on. Yeah. And you don't let it affect you at all.
Okay, well, that makes me think of two questions from there. Number one, what kind of content were you posting at the beginning? And number two, what kind of hate comments were you getting early on? Okay,
so originally I was posting teacher content because I used to be a teacher. I was a teacher for 10 years. So all of my content revolved around that. But when I left my teaching career, I decided to pivot my content. And I was like, you know what? I want to hit deeper topics that affect us in our South Asian community, especially as South Asian women. And one of the series that I started was about toxic in-laws. And that'll do it for hate comments because I ticked off a lot of people, a lot of men, a lot of older women. I was talking about toxic mother-in-laws. I was talking about toxic sister-in-laws, living situations. And people didn't like what I had to say. They thought that I was talking a lot of negativity about our community. They thought that I was teaching their daughters like the wrong thing by having them think critically about their relationships and how to navigate tough situations. And I got all sorts of hate comments. I got comments telling me that I'm never going to get married, even though
Were you single at the time?
I
or
was
were you
married. I had been married for 8 years, and I had one daughter at the time, and I was pregnant to have another kid on the way. I was also told that no man would like me, or I was never going to be able to have a successful relationship. And if people did know that I was married, they're like, you're going to get divorced.
Yeah.
People told me that I needed to just shut up, like stop talking about this, because like bringing a light on these situations and these topics, for whatever reason, triggered a lot of people.
I think because familial relationships require so much responsibility and it takes so much personal awareness, but also maturity, right? To have, like, for example, a healthy, I just think of like sister-in-law, for example.
Yeah.
Like to have a healthy sister-in-law relationship, you have to be at a point where you can respect that person and you know your edges and they know their edges and you can like kind of work within that. But then also knowing that there's a lot of nuance around it. You know what I mean?
And it's a lot about boundaries, setting boundaries. And something about the word boundaries in our South Asian community, also another very triggering word. Because if you're setting boundaries, somehow it was interpreted as you're being rude, you're being disrespectful, when that wasn't the case at all. And I reiterated that in many of my videos where I talked about boundaries can be set in a very respectful way. Other hate comments that I got from people that did know that I was married was, oh, your relationship must be terrible with your mother-in-law and your father-in-law or your sister-in-laws. And I'm like, it's not though. It's not. I'm like, you don't have to have a bad relationship in order to talk about a topic. I'm like, this is an issue that's ongoing within our community for many women. And it's a reality. So
what was the inspiration then?
The inspiration was actually a lot of my childhood and my mom's relationships and just hearing people's stories of their relationships with their in-laws and just thinking to myself, what sets my relationship with my in-laws apart from other people? And one of them is early on, I set my boundaries, but it was done in a really respectful way. But I also had in-laws that really understood that and were willing to acknowledge that, okay, she has a different set of like, you know, a way of living or whatever it might be. And they were respectful of that too. So it is definitely a two-way street.
Yeah. They welcomed that in.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I was very fortunate in that sense. And then the other backlash that I got was a lot of my videos would get sent to them. And then they were like, they stood up for me though. They were like, she's not talking about us.
Oh, they would get sent to your family members. Yeah.
Especially my in-laws. And so I was very fortunate in that sense too, that my in-laws knew who I was by that point. And they were like, she's outspoken. She speaks about a lot of things that, you know, she believes need to be spoken about. Yeah.
So, okay, from that lens, because, you know, it's funny, like now I'll hear how my brothers will talk about me to other people. Or like they'll say like, yeah, I said like, oh, my sister did this and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it's such a positive light. But I think that when you start on social, a lot of the times you think that the people around you are going to be embarrassed by you or be like, oh, like, what are you doing? Why are you putting yourself out there? But really like, which can be very true.
Yes.
For me, that wasn't the truth. It was like my own perception of cringe, right?
Yeah.
And so like, how did you navigate that? Because being an outspoken person, putting yourself out there, how did you navigate the people around you also having to get used to the fact that you are doing that?
This was actually really hard. And I had to learn what things that I could talk about and what things I need to kind of filter myself, because in speaking about certain stories and things, I knew that I was also bringing my family into it, and I would never want them to have to go through something uncomfortable or people saying anything to them because of the fact that I'm putting myself online. So a lot of it, and I talk about this so much on TikTok, it came down to communication. I would communicate with my family, my sister-in-laws, my brother's wife, my brother-in-laws, my sister-in-laws from my husband's side, right? A lot of it was just ongoing communication. So they knew where I was coming from and what the intentions really were. So we were always on a at a good place. But it was definitely really hard for my family to get used to it, hearing people talk about me to them in a way that they weren't used to before, right? And my family also seeing me on a much larger platform.
Because it's also something for you to get used to. Like, I'll never forget when my mom went to the bank and she had her phone and she had put her phone on the counter. And I had released a film in 2022. And it was a picture of me and my brothers from that film release. And the guy behind the till was like, oh my God, that's Sue and Kintola. Like, I watched her movie. And I didn't like that. And I was like, oh, like, why do I feel so weird about this? Like, it just made me feel like just help my mom and leave her alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think for me, it was a lot of imposter syndrome too. Like, I had my online kind of personality. And outside of that, when people would talk about me to my parents or even to me, if they would see me in public, and it still happens, I have a hard time associating it, like realizing like that's me online, and that's who they're seeing in person now. And even my mom, she's like, you know, there used to be a time that people like, it was like, oh, your mom is Shamim. And it's like, now people go up to my mom, they're like, hey, is Neely your daughter? And my mom's like, how do you know? How do you know her? They're like, we see her online. We love her content. So yeah, it is a really weird feel. And I will say I'm still not used to it. I think I'm like 4 years in now and I'm still not used to it. I love meeting people like my followers in person. I always take the time to have a short conversation with them. But I always walk away feeling like it's not me that they're talking about, which is, it's a really weird sense.
Let's double click on that because there's this merging. I'm going to tell you two stories. Like, so there's this, and this coming from this perspective, there's this merging of, you know, your digital life versus your in-person life. And I put it that way because even now you have digital wills, right? And I remember, like, we film so many people at this point. I've interviewed like over 1,000 people. And sometimes I will meet people from the online space, and they will be so extroverted and expanded and like, I'm me. And then I'll meet them in real life and they're just so quiet, which is not a fault to them. That may just be how they are expressing themselves in that medium, and then they express themselves differently in other mediums. But as a director, I was like, whoa, this is kind of jarring because like you're hiring somebody because you think that is who they are or how they're going to be. And then as a person, I'm like, okay, the part of me that shows up online is this part of me who is an educator, who is very curious, who is likes to share parts of herself, but I don't share a lot of myself there. So the person you get to meet is very different than the person that you'll meet online, Sumin. You know what I mean? It's not that it's not me. It's just it's a part of me.
Right.
Yeah. So like, how have you rectified that? Because it is a part of you, but it's not all of you.
Yeah. So going back to when I created my Toxic In-Laws series, my personality, the way I showed up on screen was very blunt and straightforward. And a lot of people walked away from that either thinking that I was not a nice person, very intimidating. I get that a lot, actually, that people think that I'm very intimidating. But then when they meet me in real life,
I'm like, you're such a teddy bear.
They're like, you're not at all like that. And I actually had a friend who was my job share partner share a story with me. And she was like, her mother-in-law had seen my Toxic In-Law series. I'm like, oh my gosh, no. And she's like, yeah. And she found out that we were friends. And she's like, how can you be friends with her? Like, she's just so like krant. She's so like I don't know what the word for it is in English, but like
brass.
Yeah,
is what I'm getting.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's actually a really good word. And she's like, how can you be friends with her? How can you work with her? And she's like, what you're seeing online, this version of her where she's talking about this particular topic, is not who she is in real life. She's actually a really kind and caring person. And so her daughter's first birthday had rolled around, and I had just started my business, and I had done all of her desserts for her dessert table and her cake. And I went over, and she lives in Vancouver too, actually, to do the decor setup. And I didn't know that her mother-in-law thought this of me. And so I go in, and even though I'm Muslim, I like went up to her and I was like, Sat Sri Akal, Auntie Ji, and I like talked to her, and I talked to her Bibi, all the things helped. I was there till 1 a.m. Anyways, fast forward to like probably a year and a half later, she tells me, she's like, by the way, after that interaction and after you left, my mother-in-law was like, because she said to her before I came, she's like, we'll see what she's actually like. And she goes, I'll tell you what I actually think, not the other way around. And so when I left, she's like, oh my gosh, she is such a nice person. She's so kind and like compassionate. And she's like, I told you that though. Yeah. She's like, but that's not how she shows up online. She's like, because it's a persona that she's presenting with this particular topic.
But how did you make peace with that? Like, or was that a strategy? Like, what was
it? Was definitely a strategy because with TikTok, you have to have a bold personality, right? Whether it's like, there's all sorts of different types of bold personality. And that was the one that I chose to go with. I think what I was at peace with is I know myself. I know who I am as a person. And people who take the time to get to know me or to have conversations with me, whether that's through DMs or in person when they see me, they will very quickly realize that, oh, she's not actually intimidating and she's not cold. Yeah. She's a very warm person.
Well, they can look at you as a 360 being, right? Like, we have to remember that when we see people online, we can make a statement like, I don't like double chocolate cookies, and they might see me in real life trying a double chocolate cookie and they're like, you a fucking liar, but I'm a 360 person, right? So you're making a statement that may be true in that moment in time. However, we will constantly be growing and shifting and changing. Yeah. And you're only getting a flat 2D version of me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's also, I think what people fail to realize is that a TikTok video is like a 1-minute video that's been edited and very like curated.
It's purposeful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, and I won't say that it's inauthentic because I was still showing up very authentically, but it's a version of me talking about a very specific topic that was very triggering for people, you know, because I went on to talk about I had other series that I did on my TikTok, and you'll see that I show a very different side to myself on there, right? You can't really judge a person based off a 1-minute video or 30 videos on TikTok, but people do.
People do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. Okay, that kind of makes me think about something else that I've been thinking a lot about lately, which is when you start social or when you start putting yourself out there, I think that there is this initial desire. And I'm not talking about, because the way that you started, to me, from what I'm receiving, is that you started just because you wanted to create, just because you wanted to put yourself out there. It kind of just sounded like something to do and have fun, rather than now it's intentional and it's a business, right? And I think sometimes when you start like that, it's this self-discovery phase. Right? Then how did you switch, right? And how do I say this? How did you switch the type of access that you were giving to yourself, even in how you approached it? Here's an example. when social media was very native, you know, you go on stories and you're like, oh my God, I'm here. And like you post your sandwich, you post your coffee, whatever. And then eventually you're like, okay, that's look at me content versus this is this actually purposeful and why this person is following me? Because now following somebody is so much more intentional, right? But then as a creator, you also have to shift because you've gone to a business world. So when you're posting on your stories or on your feed now, you're posting with an intention. It may not just be about baking. It may be about, hey, this is get to know me a little bit deeper or further. But I'm sure that the way and the approach changed over time, like how you create and what you create.
So I think I moved away from doing specific topics, but I will say I've always stayed true to myself that if there's a topic that I felt like needed to be talked about in our community, I have never shied away from it. And the way I navigate my social media, and I think the reason it feels so authentic to my audience is I will show up when I feel like it, talking about whatever it is that I'm currently going through or experiencing or is going on in the world. And I'll just share that. Like I feel like sharing this today, I'm going to share it. I feel like sharing a clean my house video today, that's what I'm going to share. I always do try to bring some type of value to my viewers though, because I always ask myself, if I was watching my own content, what value am I getting out of this, right? And through that, I've been able to build a lot of strong connections with my audience too, because it's not the look at me like content of like, hey, I bought this and look at what's in my bag and all that kind of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that type of content. Yeah. It's just not for me, right? Yeah. So I show up and I share different pieces of my life of where I'm kind of at. And I think as I've become more comfortable in my skin, I have been showing up even more authentically and
so it's driven you to want to do more of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I don't feel like, oh, I have to have like a curated series of things that I'm talking about. I can just show up and be like, hey, today this is what we're talking about. This is where I'm at. And what are your thoughts?
Something you talk about often in like the conversations that we've had is authenticity. And I think authenticity is one of those words, like the same way that you were talking about boundaries. It's a buzzword in different ways, right? And it's very, I think in some ways it's very authentic and honest. And in other ways it feels very like alarming, like, oh my God, authenticity, everyone's saying authenticity. So like, what does authenticity mean to you and how is it true? Because there's a weight when you say it that it's authentic. And so I want to unpack that.
So the reason authenticity was so important to me and how I showed up online is because when I was younger, and when like the internet era started and the influencer era started, I noticed how so many influencers were all about selling you something, right? Selling you a way of life. And it was always picture perfect. Like, look at my life. It's perfect. I've got a husband, I've got kids, and I can do it all. When in reality, the people that are watching, they're struggling. A lot of people are struggling, but nobody ever shared that, right? And I remember the internet started to shift where it started talking about like somebody's, like, don't compare your life to somebody's like highlight reels. They're sharing the best parts of their life. And I remember I thought to myself, I'm like, man, I wish there was a content creator influencer out there that shared the real raw moments of their life so that the people that are watching don't feel so alone and are like, okay, like it's normal to go through these things.
That
it's
was
normal
a huge
to struggle.
Pivot. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I feel like when I started my content, there wasn't really anybody like that in that space. It's changed drastically now. But that was the main thing that was driving me in my content was I'm like, I want to show up as real and raw as I possibly can. If I'm having a hard day, we're going to talk about that hard day. If I'm having like mental health issues, we're going to talk about that. Is it uncomfortable? Absolutely. But are there other people that will feel seen if I share my story? 1000%.
Okay, then let's double click on that part, right? So if there are other people who will be seen by my story, what about that inspires you? Like the helping aspect. Is it helping?
I think it is because the reason I know that it's helping is the amount of DMs that I get from especially other women, other South Asian women that share their stories and say like, I thought I was going through this by myself. Like, for example, when I went through my IVF journey, I shared all of it. And they were like, thank you so much for sharing this. Like, I thought I was alone in this process. You're not alone. You're not alone, right? And when you can see somebody that's online that's kind of built an audience for themselves and people kind of look up to, and that person shares the ups and the downs of their life, you sharing your vulnerability allows people to have permission to share their vulnerability and feel seen. And I've always felt good about that, knowing that I can provide a sense of comfort for somebody else. You know, like, I think that's really important. I think that that type of compassion is lacking for a lot of influencers and content creators. There's just like a disconnect there. And for me, I knew it was really important for me to connect with my audience on a much deeper level.
So then to me, I see that as there's a feedback loop, right? Because if you are getting that, if you are giving that to somebody else, and then that is giving you something, that's a fuel. So like if I'm talking to you and I'm giving you energy, then you're giving me energy back. Now there's a feedback loop and we're giving each other energy, right? And we can either build each other up or we can drain each other. So in return, what are you getting out of this exchange?
So one thing to know about me is that when I do anything like this, whether it's talking to strangers on the street or talking to a stranger in DMs and giving them advice, whether it's about business or life or whatever it might be, I'm not looking for anything in return. I'm genuinely not looking for anything in return. I'm not looking for like energy reciprocation. I'm not looking for the other person to hear my story out. There's something that just feels complete in knowing that I've helped somebody through a tough situation, or even in that moment that they felt like they had somebody to talk to. And that's enough for me. I'm not looking for anything. So being there. Just being there for human beings. And I'm not saying it
in a way where it's like, I'm only going to do a good thing if a good thing happens back to me. But like everything has a plus and minus, right? Like think of a battery. In order for a battery to work, you have to have a plus and minus. It has to have a feedback loop. And so I believe you when you say that like something about that settles your soul and it feels good, and like it almost like you're doing your dharma on this earth.
Yes.
And then that is enough, because it's like, yeah, in the feedback loop, okay, you get followers, you get likes, all that kind of stuff. That's metrics, right? Yeah. I'm not talking from that perspective. I'm talking more from that like soul level of like it's nurturing and nourishing your soul in some way.
Yeah, it is. So I'm Muslim. And one of the things that I believe is that when you do good deeds, right, like that's going to come back to you. Like it's written down for you. And in some way, in one way or another, it is going to come back and it's going to better your life. And so when I'm doing these things, I know that like in the back of my mind, that this is going to serve me well moving forward. If you're a good human being, good things will happen to you. Good people will come into your life. And I was like this even before I started social media. Like I remember my husband really got to witness a lot of this because we've been together for 15 years now. But if there's ever somebody that I see even remotely like crying, like I remember once it was during Christmas time and it was Guildford Mall and there was somebody sitting off to the side and they were crying. And my husband and I, we walked right by them and I told him like, give me a minute, I'll be right back. He said, where are you going?
He's probably so used to it.
He's used to it now. But in the beginning, I remember it was like, he was just like, what is she doing? This is so weird.
Yeah.
And I was just so like,
weird.
I didn't care.
Sounds like what a broad guy would say.
Right? Yeah. And so I went and I sat next to this person and I just talked to them and I said, you know, are you doing okay? And like had a conversation with them, and it was probably not even 10 minutes. And I'm not saying I'm changing their life.
You're just giving them, 10 minutes, acknowledging them.
Yeah. To say like, I see you, I see that you're struggling, and I hope like there's somebody here that cares, and I hope that you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And then I asked to give them a hug, and I gave them a hug, and I was on my way. And I just hope that stays with them. And there was another situation at a SkyTrain station where there was a guy that was in a wheelchair and he couldn't get up over the curb. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, I can either walk away, right? And that's what most people do. They say, mind your business. I don't think I've learned that lesson. And I decided, no, I'm going to go to him. I'm going to ask him if I can help him. And he's like, hey, I'm like, hey, can I help you? He's like, could you just push me to the SkyTrain, whatever? And he's like, I'll pay you $20. I'm like, no, I'm like, I don't need $20. I'm like, where are you going? And he told me where he was going. And I'm like, are you able to get up off your wheelchair? He's like, yeah. I'm like, just put the wheelchair in the back of the trunk. Get you in I'll take you where you're going. He's like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah. I think a lot of people shy away from doing things like that because things can go very wrong very quickly. So you got to be cautious. But I've always gone with my gut.
Yeah.
And doing
and
things
you don't want to change who you are.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
And I've always said this to myself. I'm like, if this is how I die, it's okay.
It's
I
okay.
died doing something good, you know? And I know like that person probably remembers that. You know, it's like, oh, I was in a time where I was struggling and nobody else, he even said, he's like, I asked people to help me and no one helped me.
Yeah. You know, I was, I live downtown and I've lived there for 6 years now. And so you just know a lot, like, you know how to get around and how, all the routes or whatever, right? And so I see so many lost tourists, and I'm walking one day and there's this girl and she's just like pacing back and forth and she looks so lost. And I was in Yaletown and I took my my headphone out and I was just like, hey, is there anywhere can I help you? Right? I can't remember what I said. And she's like, can you help me? She was so rude, right? And I was like, yeah, you just look lost. And she's just like, don't talk to me. And I was like, it's okay, whatever, you do you. And then I was on that same walk, I kid you not, I'm walking up and this other woman looks so stressed out. And I'm like, I'm just like looking at her and I just like catch eyes with her. And she's like, I'm going to miss my cruise ship. Do you know how to get to waterfront? And I was just like, see, I could change who I am because some girl was a bitch, or I could just keep being me. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I 1,000% agree with that. Like I've had a lot of negative interactions like that too.
Yeah.
But I think that there aren't enough people that are willing to go out of their way to show compassion to other human beings. And I think that in the world of the internet, we've kind of lost human connection.
Oh my God, we've lost
real
that like
life
real life participation of like, we're all on the earth together. You know? And
I just think that a lot of people are very lonely. They're going through hard things and they're alone in it and they don't have somebody to talk to. So if you can be that source of comfort and just like, hey, I see you, why wouldn't you want to do that?
Yeah.
You know?
I have such a random question for you.
Yeah.
And you don't have to answer it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. But you know, something that I feel like from what you're saying is a lot of people are experiencing languishing. Do you know what languishing is?
No.
Languishing is feeling like aimless, feeling like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like, you know, you have ambition in your spirit, but you don't really know where to direct it. You feel like every day's the same. You feel like, what's the point anyways? And I think a lot of that is because we're at this time in society, like in Earth's evolution, where we don't really know what's next, right? Like the world is changing a lot.
Very fast.
And very fast. And, you know, you have this educational background, you have children. Like, how do you navigate like the future, knowing that you have kids, knowing that there's so many young people in the world and like and just, I guess, inspiring them. Like, I know that sounds funny, but like, for example, Emma Greed and Mark Cuban, they were talking about how grads this year they're really not excited about graduating. And my nephew, he was not excited about graduating. He's like, oh, whatever, like I'm gonna make more money doing this, and like, you know, somebody could just do this on AI and like whatever. And there's so much like distrust with the future. Like, how do you navigate that as a mom?
I don't think you can navigate that. I think that you take it day by day and you adapt as it comes your way, right? And that's, I think, what makes people successful is that they don't get stuck in their ways. Like I had a background in education. I have 2 degrees. And if I got stuck in that, I don't think that I would have succeeded to where I am right now. You've got to constantly be adapting as the world is changing. I think people get very stuck in their ways and very like, oh, like AI is taking over and our jobs are getting replaced by bots and stuff like that. Okay, then you got to be 2 steps ahead, but you don't need to know everything. You don't have to have everything figured out. And I think one of the ways that I inspire a lot of people, young and old, is just sharing that journey, sharing the uncertainties, and then people seeing it in real time working out with my business because they see how I'm constantly reinventing the wheel. I'm trying something, it doesn't work out, I'm trying something new, right? And I think in order to be successful in life in any area, that's what you've got to do.
So
you've got to be
the
resilient.
Learner. Yeah, that's the learner. Like some people have a really hard time with being the learner and being perceived as the learner. How do you navigate that? And then how would you encourage somebody to navigate that? Like that fear of, I have to be perfect or I have to have it all figured out, or like, I don't want to be seen trying.
So going to I have to have it all figured out. I don't think there's such a thing. I don't think that even the people that look like they have it all figured out, and I know a lot of people when they look at me, they're like, oh my gosh, she's got it all figured out. Her business is successful. I don't have it all figured out. I don't think anybody does, right? So that's the first thing that you've got to remind yourself. And secondly, the moment you stop learning, and I remember saying this as a teacher to my students, and I continue to say this to my audience, that the moment you stop learning, you stop growing. You stop moving forward. You become stagnant because the world's going to keep evolving and you're going to get stuck in time with the skill set or mindset that you have in that time and space. And you're just not going to be able to keep up with how everything else is moving along. So get interested in something that really ignites a fire in your soul and keep learning about that. And don't be afraid to pivot. I think people are so afraid to pivot. Like when I pivoted my career, people are like, what are you talking about? You're leaving like this, like a safe job that is like, you know, you're getting a fixed income and you're going to go into the unknown. Absolutely.
How did you navigate the pivot? That was something I definitely wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah.
So maybe for everybody who's listening, let them know where you were before and yeah, just like the nuances of doing it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I've never been afraid to try new things. And I believe that life is short. It's so short that I think that it's kind of ridiculous to say that, oh, you know, I became a teacher and I'm going to stay in this career until I'm 65 and I can take my retirement.
Yeah.
Like, why?
Yeah.
Why? If it's not serving you, like it's not your purpose anymore, then find something else, figure out something else. I will say, so I was a teacher for 10 years with the Surrey School District, and I loved being a teacher. And I say this all the time. All my colleagues, they
Your
knew that.
energy has teacher energy all over it.
I do. And you'll see it come out in my videos too, especially on my baking channel where I'm teaching something. People are like, oh my gosh, you're such a teacher. Like it's ingrained in me.
I love it.
So yeah, I loved my students. I loved teaching. I was so passionate about it. But things got really difficult, and it's always, I always say this, it's always the adults that make a job difficult. And so I felt like I was forced into a corner. It came down to my child and putting my child first and how she was being treated. So I had to make the difficult decision to leave because I tried all the different avenues of trying to solve the issues that were happening, and it just wasn't working out. I felt like the school that I was working at, they kind of had it out for me. And so I decided, I'm like, you know what? My time is done. I'm going to resign. And when I resigned, I think a lot of people, there's a misconception that people think that I had my business in place and I had resigned and I just like decided to go full time. No, there was no business in place. There was no
was
plan.
there even a mindset of the business?
Nothing.
So what were you thinking? Because you know when you make the right decision, it feels like an exhale?
Yes.
So I'm assuming that you were there.
Yes.
But you just nothing on the horizon.
Nothing on, and this is what I mean. People that like, there is no such thing as having it all figured out. I had no plan. Like I am living proof of that. I had zero plan. I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to double down on my content creation. I'll do a lot more. Like I was starting to get brand deals and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'll do brand deals. I'll be a stay-at-home mom. I'm going to kick ass at that.
Yeah.
I knew I was going through IVF at the time and I had a successful transfer. So I knew I was pregnant and I was like, okay.
Have you had all your kids via IVF?
No, I had my daughter naturally.
Yeah.
And then we had second child infertility and I had 4 miscarriages after my daughter. And that's also something like I openly talk about. And it's something that's not talked about in our South Asian community
at all. It's crazy how so taboo. Becoming an older woman, how many of my friends have gone through this and my heart is just like,
yeah.
And no one talks about it.
Nobody talks about it. And so then people just kind of feel ashamed or like, oh, something's wrong with me. And it's like, no, this is part of life. Yeah. Like it happens.
Yeah.
Right? It's really hard.
It's another reason why the woman's journey is so uniquely different. Yeah. I'm not saying that the man doesn't go through it whatsoever, but it's very different when it's your heartbeat. It's your body.
Yeah. 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 So then my son was via IVF. And so I was just kind of like, all right, I'm just going to ride out the wave and see what happens. And I was 20 weeks pregnant with my son, and we went for a pilgrimage to Mecca. And I remember standing there, and one thing to know about me is that my husband, he's an entrepreneur, and he has been. His background is in business and marketing, and he's so good at what he does. And I've always been so proud of him, and I've seen him build his business ground up and become extremely successful. And I'm like, man, I wish I had something like that, but I don't. Like, what can I possibly do that I can build up and call my own? And I remember even writing about it in my journal years ago. And I still, in that journal, that was actually the only entry that I ever made because I was never consistent with it. And in there, I said, like, I'm really proud of my husband, but I want something for me.
Yeah. He must have loved it because like an entrepreneur that loves it, they ooze that like energy of you could do whatever you want.
Oh, yeah. He's a firm believer of that. Yeah. Like, I remember we had bought our new home and he was like, hey, I'm going to quit my corporate job. And I remember I'm like, what do you mean? We've got a huge mortgage. And he's like, no. He's like, I've got this. I got this. Yeah. And his business like skyrocketed.
Yeah.
And so I remember thinking to myself, I want to do that. I want to make him proud. I want to make my kids proud. And I remember just being in Makkah, and one of the things we believe in is the first time you see Makkah, you make a dua, you make a prayer. Wish for whatever it is your heart desires. And one of my prayers was obviously to have healthy kids, but I'm like, I want something for myself that I can build from the ground up, that I can be proud of, that is really successful. And I remember saying, I don't know what that's going to be. I have no idea, but I'm trusting you that you're going to put something in place. And months would go by after that. I had my son in April of 2024. And in August of 2024, I had shared on TikTok. And this is what I mean. I just share what I'm going through in my life at that time. And I was like, hey, last night I was scrolling TikTok and I just happened to start seeing like a bunch of sugar cookie, like people doing sugar cookies. And I went down a rabbit hole. By the way, I have ADHD. So like that was something that like I just got hyper fixated. And overnight I bought all the supplies that I needed for making sugar cookies. Why is
everybody in my life like this?
I'm just like, if you get interested in something, just do it.
Yeah, just do it.
And this is not the first time I've done it, because my husband, I remember when I got pregnant with my daughter, I decided I'm going to do a nail tech course, and I did a full-blown nail tech course, never did anything with it, okay? So I buy all these things, I share it on TikTok the next day. I remember when the packages started arriving, my husband's like, what did you order?
What's her new hobby today?
That was exactly it. Because up until this point, I've probably gone through 8 different side hustles. Like even my friends were like, really?
You know what though? But that's some people's journey. That's my best friend's journey.
Really?
And I always say like her husband is a fucking G, because he is just like, all right, let's go.
Yes. And that, honestly, that's the best kind of partner that you could 100%. Ask for.
Let me just like rock with you and like figure it out.
Yeah.
And
he was just like, all right, we're going through another phase of hers. Like, cool. Because the one before that was like, I had bought a Cricut and decided I was going to do signs and stuff. And so it was like, I've gone through so much. And so he's like, all right. And I'm like, and I said to him, I'm like, it's not a business. It's not, I'm doing this for fun. For when Zane naps, and then I can just like, decorate cookies and learn a new skill. It was October. My son was now 6 months. I was like, it's going to be a business. It's going to be a business. I'm going to open up Instagram. I'm like, just we'll see what happens. It's not a big deal. We'll just see what happens. At the very least, I'll just share like what I'm making, kind of thing. And I remember my friend, who is a teacher friend of mine, she placed an order and just for her daughter. I'm like, cool, yeah, I'll do it. Started posting. I kid you not, by December, fully booked. This is December of 2024, fully booked. And I'm like, what's happening? January, February, like now my business is just taking off. And what I realized was 95% of my clientele in the beginning was all my TikTok following. All the people that had built a relationship with me over the last year and a bit, who had seen my journey, who had seen me go from being a very passionate teacher to watching me resign, sharing my story. And I went into a lot of detail on my TikTok as to exactly why I resigned. And then seeing me buy these cookie cutters and then turning it into a business. So a lot of these people have seen me from the very beginning.
They just want to even support you.
Yeah. And then that's exactly it. They're like, we just want to support you, want a chance to meet you. And it was wild. And I think it was really cool for my audience to see this happening in real time. Because a lot of times what happens is you see a successful business and it's like it just popped up overnight.
Yeah.
And you can't, and they'll talk about their journey and they'll be like, oh, well, this is how it started. But you don't usually get to see it happening in real time.
Yeah.
And I still get people commenting being like, I can't believe how far you've come. I still remember that TikTok you posted where you bought all your cookie cutters.
Isn't that the best feeling when somebody says that?
Yeah.
Because then you also remember where you came from.
Yeah.
Like I remember this woman, I used to do journalism for Surrey 604, and I went to this event at Kwantlen, and I just thought she was so cool. And I was just like, she had 2 kids running around and she was like doing this a presentation for like a film study, and I was just like, I pitched her. I was like,
nice.
I will help you build your business, and like, this is my rate, like, let's just go. And she's like, she'll always say, I remember when you had no money and you pitched me and I used to pick you up every single day because you had no car. And it's, but like, yeah, man, I was that person.
Yeah.
And it's just so glorious in such a different way.
It is. It's amazing to know that this was something that I prayed for.
Yeah.
And that I shared my journey, and people, and I think that's what's inspiring to people is that they saw it unfold step by step. And it makes people believe that if she can do it, why can't I? And that's another thing that I'm constantly, it's like a mantra of mine. I said, I don't believe that I'm not capable of doing something, because if somebody else can do it, what's stopping me from doing it? The only difference between somebody who's successful and myself is the fact that they didn't stop. They just kept going. They just kept trying, and you got to do the same. Yeah. Right?
A winner is a loser who tried one more time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm a firm believer of that. And people see that online every day when I show up and I'm sharing and I'm trying something new. And it's like, okay, this worked out. This didn't. Let's pivot. Let's try something different. Right.
Can we talk about that? Because so we're doing a documentary right now on this man, and his name is Connor Emeny. Okay. And he is the first person in the world to do a triathlon on all 7 continents, including Antarctica. And he says that, you know, there's been many times where he's witnessed somebody, like essentially the 4-minute mile, like literally what you just said. He witnessed somebody do something, and he says to himself, like, well, why can't I? And then he gets this Guinness World Record, which is just absolutely insane for what he's done and accomplished in his life. And he's like, now I am that person for somebody to be like, well, if Connor can do it, why can't I? So why is that so important though? Like, why is it so important mentally, emotionally, psychologically for somebody to see and witness that? From your perspective.
From my perspective, I think it roots right back to when I was a teacher and why I became a teacher. The reason I became a teacher was to inspire young people, to help shape their future, right? To help them make good decisions for themselves. And that continues to be the root of why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I share so much of the, like I've taken on a very educator role within my business and my niche. And that's because there's something so satisfying about knowing that you helped and you were a part of somebody's journey of starting. There's just, there's no better feeling of like my students that come back, they find me on TikTok. They're in their 20s now. I actually had one student come back and he's entering med school. He's going to be applying. And he said, Ms. Rajput, I just wanted you to know, I don't know if you remember me, but I'm so-and-so, and you taught me during these years. And I just wanted to say what a huge impact you had on my life. And he's like, and I'm going into med school, and I was just reflecting, and you were an amazing human being to be around. And he's like, and you were inspiring then, and you're inspiring now. And I was just like, there's like, it's like a legacy that you're leaving behind,
can't pay
right?
for that.
Like, cause I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I want to make a name for myself, but not in the way that it's like, oh, like so-and-so, they're like an influencer or whatever, but more in the sense that this person helped me in my journey, right? When my name gets brought up, I want it to be attached with this person helped me. This person was a part of my journey to success.
Then you understand true legacy. Like a lot of people are like, you know, they'll say, like, I always like to use Kobe as an example. In a couple generations, some people may not know who Kobe is, but will the people in his life or in his communities know his philosophy, know how his energy impacted them? 100%. And you kind of get to this point where you're like, you know, there was a time where actually kind of around the time that you were talking about where content went from being so curated to being more real, where there was also this huge discussion around purpose and legacy. But to me, real legacy is like, how do you remember me? How do you make me feel?
That.
Right?
That. I'm so glad you said that. It's how I want to be remembered and how I want to be spoken about.
Yeah.
Right? And more importantly, it's how I want my children to see me as they grow up. Like as they grow up and they hear people talk about their mom, I want to be someone that they're proud of for my kids, right? And I want to be somebody that they want to emulate. Like I want to show them what it means to be a good human being. Like I remember a part of my journey where I was finding like, wow, this is absolutely insane. And I always share these stories with my husband, was like, I was starting to get messages from people like across Canada, across the states from like around the world of being like, hey, because of you, I started my business. I've been contemplating starting my business and I didn't. And then I saw your journey and I did. I said, that sense of giving somebody that like empowerment, that's wild. Like that to me, that's very fulfilling. Like I feel like, okay, I'm doing what I should be doing. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
100%. It's a purpose that's greater than just yourself.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like, you know, I really believe that that's just so magical because, you know, the purpose that is going, like, the purpose has to serve you in the sense of like, the business has to make money in order for it to be a business, right? And then what the business gets to do for people is beyond that, and it's magical. Like 2 years ago, we work with Dankmart, and I haven't worked in the store since like we opened like 6 years ago. And after COVID, I was feeling so like I'd never experienced social anxiety. And so I was like, okay, I need to get this out of my system. So I worked at the store. I was like, I'm just going to work at the store and I'll get this energy out of my system. But the things that I would hear, like, hey, we came from Kamloops because we love the store and just the memories that we get to make here. And I get to do this with my, like, you cannot fathom that you are somebody's like childhood memory.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
And you know what the crazy thing is? No amount of money or materialistic, like you cannot replace that feeling with any amount of money or materialistic things.
That's how I know that like you've done a good job at your business, because your business has gone beyond the material thing. Yes. I'm not just selling products. Yeah. Right. And I think that's what's created why my brand is as strong as it is because it's rooted in community and human connection. Yeah. Like I thrive off of human connection. Yeah. So I think and I think that's one thing that when other businesses look at me and they're like, how did your business like skyrocket? What feels like overnight for people that didn't witness the journey. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is that there's been so much work that's gone into it behind the scenes in my DMs of building human connection, right? That goes way beyond my business, way beyond my content. And people just feel like they've got a genuine person that they can talk to. Yeah. Let's talk about value then. So when somebody comes to you and they are like, okay, well, what's the value of this? Why is this price? How do you navigate that perspective of people and how they, their perception of value?
It's an amazing question that you ask. And what's crazy is that I've actually had a lot of bakers ask me this too, or and that's the other thing. I get other bakers that share some of the issues that they're going through and ask me how to navigate. And I think to myself often, I'm like, I'm still new in this. You guys have been doing this forever. Like, and some of these people have established like storefronts, and I feel very honored. And that's one of the questions I get from them too. And I think that they're always really surprised to hear that no one ever to date has challenged my prices or asked, why is your price the price that it is? Or like, what's the value in this? And I think a big reason for that is because I am so transparent with my content and sharing what I'm making and what goes into it and the pricing of everything. My prices are very transparent. That was another thing. I was like, I don't want to be the business that hides the prices where people have to inquire just to find out, oh, it's out of your budget. I put all my pricing out online so people know, okay, she's either in my budget or she's not. So I've never actually had that issue, which I'm very grateful for. My clientele is phenomenal, and they come to me, and I don't mean this in like a cocky way or anything like that. When people seek me out for a dessert table or a cake, they're coming to me for a very specific reason. It's kind of like going to a nail tech, right? I'm very specific about the nail tech that I go to, although I haven't been able to see her in forever. But she does a phenomenal job on nails.
The way that you like
and
it.
I will drive out to Coquitlam. I'm from South Surrey. I will drive out an hour to go get my nails done from her. And I've never questioned her about her prices because she's just so meticulous with what she does. And I think that I've been able to share and show that exact same thing. And so people just trust. They trust that I'm going to get the vision. They trust that I'm going to be able to execute it. And they don't need to worry because I take care of it all. Yeah. Right. And they see that over and over and over again with all of my other clientele experience because I share it all. And so people are like, yeah, she's the one that we want to go with. Whatever her price is, it's her price and we're going to pay it.
So what's your feedback to people when they ask you that?
Oh, one of the things that I say to them is that you have to be confident in your pricing and you have to be okay with saying no.
Yeah.
I say you have to be confident that what's meant for you is going to come your way. And if it's not, it's not, right?
Yeah.
But you don't go chasing clientele and lowering your prices and letting them negotiate. If they want to walk away,
you have to trust the value that you bring to the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I have turned down so many people for coaching. And it's not like, oh, I've turned so many people down for coaching. It's that I know that what I'm doing and what we're going to do here is not what they need. And so you need to go to these other places and you will find 10x value because that's actually going to be in service to you.
Yeah.
Right. And I have to trust that the right people will come into my world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to also like navigate from a place of abundance, like just have the abundance mindset and be like, you know what? We call it rizq, meaning like whatever is written for you in terms of money and wealth is written. Nobody can take that away from you. And so if it's going to come my way, it's going to come my way. But I think a lot of people have scarcity mindset. And so when people start negotiating the prices, like, well, if I say this, then they're going to go somewhere else. Okay, so let them go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And you just have to be comfortable in that space.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. That was a big lesson I had to learn because I think I don't feel that much in the production space because I don't know. There's something where I just have a lot of abundance in that space mentally, emotionally. But in the coaching world, I think because coaching is such a expression of what have I learned? Can you metabolize my language? Like, is it in service to you? While also like, there's a lot of money, time, and energy that was put into learning what I know to be able to provide that to you. To trust that and to be okay with that and to be like, the right people will come. But then when the right people come, it's like, oh my God.
It's so rewarding.
It's so rewarding.
It's so rewarding. And I think that's one of the biggest issues is people aren't okay with uncertainty. Like going back to like having it all figured out, you just have to be comfortable sitting in uncertainty and knowing that there is a plan. You just might not be able to see it. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Is there anything that's on your mind or lingering that you're just like, oh, I want to say this while I have the chance? While you have the chance.
While I have the chance. I think we covered almost everything. I feel like we talked about like so much and so many different topics.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I got to share a lot of who I am as a human being and also as a business owner. So thank you so much.
If somebody is on the other side and they are dabbling in and out of putting themselves out there, what's one piece of advice that you would want them to just like take away?
Oh, I love this question because I say it to other business owners all the time in my DMs, is that you got to stop caring what other people think. People are going to have an opinion about you regardless of what you do, whether you put yourself out there or you don't. People are going to talk about you one way or the other. Give them something to talk about. Just put yourself out there, be in your own world, and eventually, if you're not confident about it in the beginning, you will get confident about it as you keep putting yourself out there. It's just a process. So definitely get rid of that fear. Start talking to your camera or start putting yourself out there just as you would with a friend. And amazing things will happen.
Yeah. Where can people find you online?
They can find me at the Whiskful Baker on Instagram or that TikTok teacher, _TikTok teacher on TikTok.
Yay. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. This was amazing.